What is going on, party people? Hail to the chat! Good to see everyone already raring to go. Very cool stuff. Yes, this model here is a RTLW sculpt called the Red Witch Voidstalker Prime. It's very suitable for a Jane Czar Count's house. It's a nice sculpt. I tried to do some pre-shading, guys, okay, with the airbrush, but as you can see, it didn't go so well. So we're gonna have to kick it old school to get our base colors down. How's it going, Polly? Alfarius says I'm late. Yeah, okay there. Barely late. Pyro, how's it going? Good to see you. Tremari, how's it going? Alright, so I got a fresh palette paper. Look at this. We are set up for success. What could go wrong? The two base colors I'll be blending for the Jane Czar style armor will be Rakarth Flesh for our base color and Flayed One Flesh for the brighter values. And then from there, look, the plan is fairly easy. I don't want this to be a 10 stream project, right? From there, I'm going to do a wash of probably Agrax Earthshade diluted, and then a dry brush with Pallid Witch Flesh. The Howling Banshee's Phoenix Lord. Yes, Tremari, that is indeed the one. It'll be a redo because I have GW's Howling Banshee's Phoenix Lord. I have the official, as they say, the official Jane Czar. But I kind of like this sculpt a bit better. I think you could say this sculpt has better assets, and I think just a better silhouette overall. I also like that the spear isn't pointing off the base; it's upwards, which is nice. Out of the way, not going to snag on other models, because you know usually around your Howling Banshee Phoenix Lord is a squad of Howling Banshees, which also have potential for a Barrel of Monkeys type of effect. Okay, so we'll get the Rakarth Flesh going. Now, I haven't used this in a while. I don't know how chalky it is. I can't recall exactly. I'll have some medium of some sort ready, just in case. I don't want to glob up the details of the model, and because my airbrush base coat didn't go as intended, I think I'm already sort of on a clumpy start. So best not to add to it unnecessarily, right? We shall see. Pyro says, at what the 40k, after the last chat regarding where to put the Norn, I realized just put that in the same slot as the pre-Norn Forge World pre-Norn Forge World model that the Norn replaced, the fast attack slot. Yeah, I mean, look, that's an option. I love the idea of a Norn beast as a Lord of War. But, you know, you can put it in the Daimacharon's fast attack slot. You can put it there. It's that same size. So it's certainly an option. You know what, let's get some Lamian medium. That's what I'll use. I'm gonna apply this fairly haphazardly, going for a too thin coat, sort of principle here. So it's gonna go on pretty thin, I think, but that's okay. I just kind of want like a clean base coat. You can start layering up from, and not to blob up the details, because there are some you just don't really notice them. You just don't really notice those tiny Eldar details. You gotta paint the butt. It's very important. Very important. It's probably the most important. I think any pro painter would probably tell you the same. Out with the 40k, or Alfaria says out with the 40k. What are your thoughts on the newest and the baddest Red Gobbo? I'll be honest with you, Alfarius, I didn't take a look at the Red Gobbo. You know what? I was at a point in time where I would look at the Warhammer community stuff like daily, okay? And now I'm just so off the news feed. Let me see. Let me take a look at the new Red Gobbo. I've heard of such news. I just haven't seen it. Okay, I guess it's this post here with the Christmas guy, Christmas James Workshop. Oh, this is annoying. Well, maybe I missed it. They haven't really made it easy to find. Is it not currently on the home page of the community site? Is this old news? I see a Red Gobbo coin, but that's it. Jeez. Gotta get your Red Gobbo coin, guys. You don't want to miss that. It's very important. Brown Man Paints FL just subscribed. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing. Okay, so I do not see any Red Gobbo on the community site. In any case, Eric Brandenburg, welcome to the chat. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see the familiar gang. Okay, I'm thinking that this is still drying. Let's do another coat, actually. I think we're good. I think the paint was applied so thin, we're ready to go. It's like we never even painted. Didn't apply anything. I have my other Janzar here, actually. For color scheme reference, because I would like to paint this in the image of official Janzar. I think that's probably a tasteful thing to do. Isn't there a grot detachment? I don't know if there is a grot detachment, honestly. Okay, I'm gonna try and start blending. We'll try and start the blend process. Eric is trying to help his buddy Damiel get his Death Guard started. Well, good on ya. Good on ya. It's, I think I said this last time, Death Guard's a great faction to start in with. Very hobby friendly. You don't have that pressure to paint clean, you know? I feel like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I feel as though when painting Eldar, there is a bit of pressure to make it neat, to make it pretty. Oh, Alfarius sent a picture of him in the Manufactorum. Well, I will take a looky-loo. Thank you for doing that, Alfarius. Talk about going above and beyond. Well, I have to scroll quite a bit. I haven't, excuse the self-report. Okay, I see the new Red Gobbo. It looks very similar to the previous Red Gobbo. He's got a snowman on his base. I guess that's new. I don't know. I don't know if this is a heresy to admit. I've never been overly fond of the Red Gobbo. Like, it's cool, you know, it's a Christmas thing. I guess if you are in the spirit and it tis the season, why not paint the sky? I guess that's the idea. Well, this will be interesting. I wonder how much of this is even worthwhile. Maybe, like, if I'm going to do an all-over wash and dry brush, maybe it's just better to do just 2 solid base coats. Or, sorry, the 2 solid layers of color, right? Like Rakarth Flesh and then, what is this? Flayed One Flesh. Maybe that is a better spend of hobby effort. Because... Okay, you know what, we'll wait. Maybe I'll do a heavy dry brush sort of approach here. Maybe that's an option. I just want to wait for the Rakarth that's on there to dry, and we'll do a final pass here with the remnants of the palette. There are a few areas that are a little awkward. Might have benefited from some sub-assembly, perhaps. You know, an area like the back of this forearm. Legends is where models go to die, says Tremari. I heard from somewhere. Not sure if here or somewhere else, though. That's a pretty popular opinion, honestly. It's certainly where... Well, yeah. It's, much like Warhammer Community itself. The name is misleading for what it is. There is a surprising lack of community on Warhammer Community. It is mostly just an advertising vehicle. Alright, we'll let that dry a bit. Maybe we don't have to for the the heavier dry brush. The black gobbo. I have no memory of such a gobbo. Okay, let's try and see what happens if I can just quickly use a heavy, semi-damp dry brush here to get some value down, brighten up that armor. I think it's working well enough. We'll have to see. I'll have to see how it all comes together. This is a bit of an experiment. We're doing it live. And then following this for the, what is it, Pallid Witch Flesh, I'll go much, much more reserved. Yeah, so even here. This brush is too big. It is much too large. I feel like I had a smaller sized one, even smaller than this. I think it was a 3-pack. But when I went to my brush drawer, there's only 2, so I guess I threw it out. Tramari says, I think the Black Gobbo is primarily the fantasy version of the 40k the Red Gobbo. Grots and goblins had more characters in the old world fantasy. Very interesting. Eric Brandenburg says, Saturday I had a game versus Dark Angels. My opponent was like the month of March. Tramari says, cunning little git, that Gobbo. Shame they weren't cunning enough not to die when the old world died. Jeez. Silver Scratch Build Productions, welcome. Welcome. You're saying, what's up, peeps? What are you painting? Well, I have a counts as a Janzar, I suppose you could say. I think it's ready for... We'll put a wash on now. Will be a diluted wash of Agrax. Agrax Earthshade. Maybe I'll layer up some armor tones of Pallid Witch, like Flayed One Flesh afterwards, and then, well, I don't know, we'll play it by ear. We'll play it by ear. For the wash, it'll be Agrax Earthshade mixed with a bit of Lamian Medium. Just to soften that overall shading effect that tends to happen when you do an all-over wash. And I think this bottle cap here should be fine. Eric Brandenburg says, at what the 40K must know what they say about the month of March. Oh, yes, to follow up on your previous chat there. No, I don't know. What do they say about the month of March? Is it that it's colder than it really ought to be? You know what, I'm actually okay with cold weather. Jerry Sanchez, welcome. Do you do your wash before layering / highlight or after? I guess I've done both. It depends. It depends. This time I'm going to put the wash down first, and if it needs some layering, I'll do some layering after the fact. For any sort of white details, I usually do a bit of layering after a cold wash, like a Colia green shade or a... What was it called? The Nagaroth Knight, I think? No. Maybe. No, Drakenhof Nightshade. That's what it's called. Yes. Because I find your light gray just gets tinted way too heavily by the wash, even when it's diluted. Alright, so we will put the Lamian Medium over. And I'm liking how those details are already instantly boosted in readability. That is great. That is absolutely great. Don't forget to put wash on your butt. Very important. Gotta wash your butt. Gotta wash your butt, people. Alright. Would like to add a bit more contrast on the armor seams. So that might be a good place for a recess wash after this all-over wash is dried. Now, as far as I can tell, Janzar's mask is actually white, but I think I'll just do the faceplate white, and I'll leave the larger headdress that this model has the bone color. And I think this gauntlet will be a bone color, but the other one will be... You know what? Since they're so similar, I'll do them both bone color. Janzar seems to have one special gauntlet and one kind of standard. And the one that is a bit special is painted black. So I was thinking of carrying that through, but might not. Okay, now I gotta check. We gotta do our poolage check. Very important when you do your all-over washes. I want to check for areas where things are pooling up too much. I don't spot any. Nothing looks too egregious. I think I did a great job measuring the wash quantity there. Let me catch up with chat while this wash sits. While it cooks. Okay, Eric Brandenburg says, what the 40k must know what they say. Oh yeah, okay. Alfaria says, what the 40k Death Company list on the table anytime soon? Also, any recommendations for how to get some of the Death Company models without buying slightly more expensive intercessors? The Death Company models? I don't know. Can't you just get away with Death Company just being a paint job? Probably. I would assume so, but maybe Blood Angels purists out there would disagree. Eric Brandenburg says the month of March enters like a lion and leaves like a lamb. Oh, wow. Wow, Eric, that speaks volumes of your battle. I assume the lion showed up and then was swiftly dealt with. Not the best showing for your big bad. Jerry Sanchez says, wow, that deal popped instantly. Indeed, yeah, I think it's what they say about washes, and on brighter color schemes. It's just the washes seem to have more range to kind of build that contrast, right? Now I do want to suck up the wash that's pooling here, actually, because there's a gap here, and the wash might just fill it in a very unideal way. Basically, it'll just sit there and fill in the gap, and you'll have this acrylic sort of webbing in those hollow areas. Yeah, everything else is sitting pretty good, though. Okay, maybe we can do the same here. It's a bit dark here. I don't think it's too bad. Boots get dirty, right? And we're going to do a dry brush, brighten things up again. So I think it should be okay. I think it should be okay. Still got a bit of excess. Let's see if we can add a bit of contrast to these corners of the headdress. I think that's a good spot for some darks to build up. And anywhere else, maybe where those armor plates meet the, I don't know, the skin suit, well, it's definitely a skin suit on this model, but I think it's, I think Aspect Warrior armor is a type of Wraithbone. A type of Wraithbone suit, I believe. Tramari says it's finally snowing where I live. Fear about driving again. Yeah, drive safe, Tramari. Actually, drive safe, everybody. You know, gotta practice your safe operation of motor vehicles, right? Alfarius asks chat question. What is the single best character on their own? Not with other units, but the character itself. Like with Lone Operator. Follows up Tramari. Yeah, very similar. I think, look, you guys know me. I think Kay Van Shrike is a real G, okay? And he happens to be a lone op kind of guy, okay? Avery Barrel, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so I wish I had something planned to to paint while this dries. Maybe we can start layering, see what happens. Working with this semi-damp wash. Let's see. You can kind of work with the shade for like a wet blending sort of effect. All right, that option is there. We do have to do a little bit of butt cleanup from my terrible airbrush from earlier. I wanted to appreciate, and the airbrush let me down. Though in fairness, I have sort of abused that airbrush. So we'll say it's a user error. Tramari says, almost like they're wearing nothing at all. Nothing at all. Yes, very much that same kind of energy. She is almost wearing nothing at all. You guys know me. I enjoy a good butt. And I enjoy that meme a lot. So good reference there, Tramari. It's still drying. Yeah, this is gonna be like all streaming. Oh boy. I don't want to start in on the hair exactly because, well, let's be real. We're gonna do a bit more dry brushing, right? We have green details on the model, which will be in the sash and fabric. Those spear fabrics. Oh, you know what I should have brought for the stream? Some hexagon basalt pieces. I want to add a few thin ones, right? Underneath, not underneath, but kind of just shove them in there. That way when I put the water effects over top, it looks like he's, the marine is resting on something solid rather than floating. It's hard to kind of imagine a giant in power armor would float in the water, right? So I think you gotta try and sell the shallow basalt cliffs. Jerry Sanchez says, Adolpharius, honestly, I have recently been blown away by Typhus from Death Guard. The sculpt is amazing and I love the lore behind him, but I'm a Death Guard guy, so kind of biased. I rate Typhus. I think he's a good look. Most named characters that are noteworthy are pretty stellar. But I think in Typhus's case, you kind of want the Death Shroud with him, right? Something I'm looking forward to this week is getting a few test games in. Well, not test, but my foray into Kill Team. I'm looking forward to those. To playing a couple Kill Team games, seeing if the new edition is up to snuff. I basically skipped 2nd edition Kill Team, so I'm sure I'll be confused. That's new game systems for you, right? Eric Brandenburg says, bugs are bad up north too. In Fairbanks, Alaska, they tell stories of mosquitoes carrying off small children in the night. Horrific. Horrific. Dude, mosquitoes are the worst, okay? They're not the most viscerally off-putting, but they're little assholes. What do you think happens when... So this is totally unrelated to Warhammer, okay? Okay, chat, so get ready. Brace yourself. But what do you think happens when a mosquito tries to suck the blood of some type of superhero like the Hulk, who has radioactive blood, right? What happens? They just die immediately? Or do they become like Hulk mosquitoes? Okay, let's start in with some metal color. That should be relatively safe. I'd hope. I would hope. Well, actually, you know what? I can use up this paint on my palette here, this Pallid Witch Flesh, and just start adding a bit of brightness to the hair. I want to try and get away with contrast on the hair. If it turns out poorly, I can always paint over because it is fairly thin. But I think for the contrast to reach its maximum yield, you want to have a bit of underpainting. A kind of blend, right? So we want a bright area up top, and then another bright area here is what I'm thinking. Yeah, this hair sculpt is just chef's kiss compared to compared to the official Jane Czar, whose hair I kind of hate. The hair sculptors at Artel are perhaps a bit better in this case, anyways. What do we have in chat? Super Skeeto. Jerry Sanchez says, mosquito drinks Captain America's blood would be scary. Tremari says, I think it would just die, or they sense the radiation from him. It could make for a good spoof hero like Spider-Ham, I suppose. Yeah, it probably could. And then you'll probably want a bright area in the middle of this section as well. Not a bright area, but a warm undertone. Matt Gaming, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. You're painting some new canoptic wraiths, eh? The old canoptic court. Man, canoptic wraiths are so gross. They're so good. Oh, jeez. Who thought it was a good idea to have giant squads with multiple wounds, with high toughness, and invulnerable saves? It's the ideal. You know what? That's the anvil type, unit type, right? They're just so hardy. Then you throw on some strats or some other unit synergies, and it's like we have a problem here. Major problem. Can I absorb this without ruining the wash? It's kind of a high risk. But I can always paint. I'm not afraid to do a bit of blending if it means I can expedite what we're working with here. Alright, so I'm going to actually mix in a bit more wash for some of those darker areas, like second pass of sorts, but I won't be diluting it as heavily. I guess this would be a 1-to-1. Tramari has got to go. You need to eat and do a quick test. Well, you have it yourself a good evening, Tramari. Thanks for stopping by and sharing in that hobby camaraderie. Man, this seems so dark, though. I don't know if how I feel about it. See, I feel like that's too dark. I feel like it's too dark. Maybe it would make for a good color for like a recess wash. Might be good for that. So guess we can begin putting some paint down on the marine, maybe? I'm hesitant to dry brush too early. I gotta wait for that wash to dry. Unfortunately. So let's get some black contrast for the soft seals. That should be a good start. Well, I guess we'll just paint this marine until she's ready for the dry brush. The plan for this guy is to paint him like a bearer of the word. The Artel Phoenix Lord count as models. Often they have demonic elements on their base. And so I thought for the primes that have Astartes, or Heretic Astartes, why not make them word bearers? So there's a bit of a through line, right? Get a bit of a narrative. A little bit of a narrative that writes itself. Okay, next we'll probably have, let's see, I suppose the metal colors, right, are trim. Yeah, we can probably do armor color first. Alright, so for the armor color, I'm just going to kind of blend my way there to a close color. We got Wordbearer's Red and Screamer Pink. Between those two, I think I should get something suitable. Jeez, Wordbearer's Red is so like almost like a terracotta color. Not quite what I like. I kind of like the red wine color for Wordbearers more, which is why I like using the Screamer Pink mixed in. Then add a bit of black for good measure. Okay, well, I think the shade on her bosom is starting to dry, finally. So perhaps soon we will get back to the dry brush. Well, this color is certainly darker. We'll have to work with it. A fair portion of the sky will be obscured, right? He'll be submerged. So I think we're probably gonna weather this guy with some liquid effects pretty heavily. Alright, soon we'll be able to dry brush with the Pallid Witch Flesh. Just going in with the Pallid Witch Flesh to just killing time really while we wait for the shade. But I figured I would create some blends on the hair using the same range of colors, because I think it'll really make the contrast effect go the distance. I tried this on some Howling Banshees with a pink, a Doomfire magenta contrast, and I thought the effect was really nice. Low effort, high yield, which is always a win. So there may be some areas where we could use some refining, but I think even this is going to make a substantial difference. All right, how far are we in? Just over an hour. Probably go for another hour at the most. We'll play it by ear. Look, finally, I think we're at a place with that shade where I feel confident we can begin dry brushing. So here we go again. Just gonna get some Pallid Witch Flesh from the palette. I'm gonna really try and brush most of it off here. Should be very subtle. Okay, and let's just do some circular dry brushes. Should really be holding the model for this. Okay, we'll have to come in with a smaller brush. hope this will suffice, because it's not nearly as nice as a dry brush. But this will be good for the smaller details. Those ornate ridges and layered plates, I think, will really pop. Now it's just like a more damp dry brush. I don't know what you'd call it. A semi-dry brush. We'll just do the hair as well. Oh, this track is a banger. Just something about water level music that is pretty chill. Alright, here's how she's looking after the dry brush. I wonder if there should be another layer or not. You can always do a more precise dry brush with a smaller brush later if it's needed. But I guess we can begin adding in some of our more signature colors. So I'm going to try diluting a bit of contrast. And we'll see if it's a terrible idea or not. We will learn together. Actually, while we have the red on the palette, I just want to... Might as well, right? Okay, so she has so much of hair, right? So I think we're going to need a fair bit of this stuff. Alrighty, let's let's see how it looks. I'm gonna try and be mindful not to hit the helmet too much, but can always clean it up if we do. Just try and get it in there. Okay, well, I think the amount we diluted it was pretty good, because I'm liking how it's sitting on the surface. So let's get a lot more on the brush and start filling in the body of this hair. Any missed spots? No, it looks all right. She's looking all right. Looking good. Well, certainly more striking for having that red on her hair. Matt Gaming says, planning on using 2 of my Wraiths and 3 Space Marines for like a demonstration on where my D&D players' characters are in relation to the giant sandworm. Alright, not bad, not bad. I could see the application of such a size comparison. You know what? I actually forgot to shade the bottom of the tabard. How embarrassing. Is there enough in here still? No. Yeah, there's actually some ornate details on the bottom of the tabard there. I'm going to add a bit of recess shading while we're here to some areas. So now the question is do we leave all her armor white, or do we make the boots black and the one forearm black like the classic Janzar model? It's tough to say. Oh, it appears I have missed some spots. Jerry Sanchez says the white's pretty good, not gonna lie. Oh, thank you, Jerry. That was very much appreciated. Yeah, I think it turned out all right. Pretty good. I have my other Janzar here, which I've been looking at as a reference. I'd like to get this one up to parity, so it's gonna take a little bit more effort. But yeah, I mean aesthetically, I like the Artel one a bit more. Just on a pose and art direction point of view. Yeah, so the new model, or the newer model, has a bigger shoulder pad on the right side as well, or her left. So maybe there is some design space here to carry the original scheme through, right? And I hate. Look, I think these shoes are the fucking worst. Okay, they're awful. Whoever designed these giant pointy shoes, just the worst. Just the worst. Okay, so I think the Beal-Tan, I think I used my same green I used for the Beal-Tan army. So we're looking at deep green, and for the base, I think Black Forest from scale 75. Which is this, yes. Black Forest green. So let's get those two colors going. Matt Gaming says, also my friend asked his mom to buy him a Lictor, and the exact day she got him a Lictor and Norn Emissary. Now he's rewriting his list to fit in the emissary. Well, that's a based mom for you. Wow. Ask for a lictor, you get a Norn emissary. Jerry Sanchez says, I think you're right. That gold on white looks fantastic too. Yeah, I would like to carry some of the scheme, the official James R scheme onto the counts as here. If possible. Yeah, the classic mask is white, which would be these lower sections, I think. It's probably what I would do. The face and, or the eyes and mouth. I guess you could do the ears too, right? Because the original model has those big old white ears. Yep. Okay. Okay, so we won't get onto we'll do the greens first, okay? Gotta take it one step at a time. Got some Black Forest green on the palette, and we're just gonna start applying it onto our cloth elements. You know, sometimes people ask me why I like the Artel sculpts so much. And, you know, while the sculpt quality at GW is very good, you know, they're not bad sculptors. I can't help but come away feeling that GW is afraid to have any sexy models, right? Like let's just be frank about it. Over time, they've lost that heavy metal sort of intensity in their art direction, let's say. And it's I'm not saying we need to have naked models, but even just to have aesthetically pleasing models, like it often feels like it's not the case. And I like that the Artel art direction, the sculptors there appreciate a good form, a pretty face, a nice hair, right? Alright, so we're going to have to switch to the accurate brush, the most accurate brush I have, because I do not want to nick the leg armor with the green when we do this sash. And that would be a big oopsie daisy. Now, might not be able to avoid this on the plate that rests on top of the tabard or sash, but like how am I supposed to paint these without nicking this ornament, right? Polly says the 1300s would like to have a word with you about your tastes in apparel. Mad Gaming says, also, do you think plasma guns are a good idea for a Salamander's build? I don't know whether to get some bolters or plasma incinerators for my Sons of Incinders. Look, plasma, like if you're leaning into the meme, Matt, you can always, like, you know, plasma's pretty hot, right? You can always spin it that way. I have a soft spot for the humble bolt gun. There's something so classic and 40k about it. But I don't think it's especially bad. Look, Salamander's rules right now. I'm actually of the mindset to do a video on the Salamander's detachment, on the Firestorm Assault Force, because I think it's garbo, and I think I'd find it cathartic to share a video on the subject. But what that attachment gives you, like, you know, +1 strength on plasma guns, it's not terrible, right? The plasma incinerator, like Hellblasters, I think they go supercharged 7 to 8. So getting to 9 isn't a terrible breakpoint. I mean, it's not the best, but you know, you can now wound a light vehicle on 4s. Like, ideally, I think the Inceptors benefit more, because I believe they supercharge from 8 to 9 and then become 10. Let me look that up. Make sure I'm not spreading fake news. Let's see here. Plasma incinerators. Oh, no, wait. That's not what they're called. We're looking for Inceptors on the Waha Padaya. Yes. No, okay, yeah, so I was wrong. They supercharge also from 7 to 8. So I'm thinking of the vehicle-grade plasma weapons, then. Yeah, the plasma incinerators, I got the damage increase confused, because they supercharge from 2 to 3. Right? As opposed to Hellblasters? How do they stack up? Yeah, Hellblasters supercharge from 1 to 2. Okay. That makes sense. Marcus the Geiger Counter. Welcome. Fashion before practicality always. Yes, indeed. Indeed. You gotta go with the cooler aesthetics for your models. And let's try and finish up this cloth. And if we nick the spear, the polearm, that's not a big deal. That thing is gonna be black anyways. Polly says GW's 40k department is good at sculpting Space Marines. Everything else, not so much. Artel's models have better poses and proportions. I agree. I don't hate the look of the Sisters of Battle poses and the sculpts. Some of the faces are look. Not everyone needs to be like beautifully faced, right? You could have some nice variety in your heads, but some heads in particular, that, at least the ones I've seen, because I haven't built any of the kits, but at least in the photographs of models and stuff, you're like, yeesh. Yeah, what? I mean, their Eldar proportions are fine. Um, I think what hurts the Chaos Space Marine proportions is just the stature, having to be smaller than Primaris, right? I think that hurts a little bit of the overall effect of the Chaos Space Marines. Like you see the Artel Chaos Space Marines, and they're such hulking brutes. Same with their orcs. I personally like my orcs larger, anyways. I like the scale of the Artel orcs, but it's not exactly conducive for like a horde army either, which I think GW always tries to keep in mind. So I'm a bit more empathetic to that lack. Alright, that seems adequate, I think. I think we've... Oh my god, this area is going to be such a pain. Jeez, I need the precision ability now. The problem is, I feel like my own personal ability to use precision is contingent on a 4-up. Like sometimes I'm like, oh wow, pretty surprised by how precise I did something. And other times I'm like, wow, really goofing the floof. Yeah, I hit the detail here, but that's... I'd much rather hit this front plate than hit her thigh. So I think this will be easier to clean up. Cool. Jerry Sanchez says, what's your favorite 40k army to paint? Like, if you're just going to chill and paint for a few hours. Selfishly, I kind of enjoy looking at Eldar bodies, you know, like this one in particular. It is appealing to look at while you paint. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Could also be fatigue. I just painted a ton of like Mark 10 bodies where I'm not finding the novelty there anymore, right? But for sure it's going to be infantry, no matter what. I think infantry is, you know, you can, for me, I can appreciate the character art more than the industrial or vehicle art, let's say, of a sculpt. So I think as long as the sculpt has character, like it's an infantry model, even something like a lictor, like a Nero lictor or something, I think it's very like enjoyable just to look at and watch come together in a way that I don't think is, for myself, as satisfying for vehicles. Like an extreme example would be a drop pod. Like I painted one drop pod and I was like, oh, never again. This is awful. It is so not satisfying at all. Like with a tank, you still have, you can still have some character, right? You have a face, you know, even on your vehicles often. And I guess, you know, dreadnoughts and the like are also similar in that regard to infantry. But I guess your question's more about the army specifically. Yeah, like I probably, as of recently, I've enjoyed painting the Eldar models because I have quite a few from Artel, like many of the aspect warriors, and they're all really nice sculpts. They're quite satisfying to put paint on and bring to life, so to speak. Okay, let's get some deep green going. It'd be really cool if we could finish off, or at least get a nice bit of a contrast in these layers of the green elements before we wrap up today. So on this tabard, I think we want the bright green coming up to here probably, or starting, maybe starting very high up there, and trailing down and dying out behind the pole arm here. I think we want this kind of like N shape. I'm just gonna grab a layer up in my gradient here and just kind of do the same. Just trying to build that contrast. Then we'll try it again with the pure deep green from AK. Oh yeah, I suppose I should, I suppose the polite thing to do, right, would be to follow up. Yeah, tell me, Jerry, what's and I guess chat as well. Whoever's willing to share what their favorite armies are to paint. Not for under the same framing as Jerry's question there, just for enjoying the process. I think something happens to your brain when you're painting for oh, this is going to be so good on the tabletop, right? I think it kind of changes the amount of satisfaction you would innately have for something, right? Like, I painted that Artel Warp Spider, knowing that the Artel Spectral Spinner Prime, right? A model that has no counts as in 40k. Purely just for the act of wanting to paint it. Polly says big nids are fun, not the small ones though. Yes, I agree. I think nids are very fun to paint, but my particular scheme is rather painstaking. The High Fleet Gengar dots, the coconut crab style dots are not what I would call an enjoyable thing to paint. Once you figure out the ratio of paint viscosity to like the amount you should have loaded on your brush, then you can kind of zen out and just put these dots down where you think they should go. But in the setup phase for that scheme, it's like, oh my god, kill me now. All these dots are turning into ovals. It's not ideal. There might also be a bit of bias in my, not, well, yeah, I guess you could call it bias. I think because I have by default, I kind of end up painting things neatly. Like, I'm not huge into weathering. Not that I don't like it, it's just preferences, right? Because I like to neatly put down paint, I think it harmonizes a bit nicer with Eldar. Kind of speaking to what I was saying earlier, like I feel like with Eldar there's more of a pressure to not... like you don't see many grim, dark, grungy kind of Eldar paint jobs, you know? Typically the Eldar paint jobs are very neat and orderly. And I think that kind of just lines up with how I like to put paint down. So upon further thinking on it, I think that's a factor as to why I feel the way I do about how much I enjoy painting them. I think I need to bust out a new brush soon, though. I think this is going to become a base coat only brush. And on the back side, I think you want the bright area to be here. Then I'll blend back to that darker black forest green. Jerry Sanchez says, I got to go with Stormcast Eternals. It looks so nice with a simple paint scheme. Yes! Actually, that's an excellent point. I feel I haven't painted any of the new style Stormcast. I painted a few of the older ones for Shadespire. Whatever that, Stormheart, Steelheart, Severin, whatever. That guy. I painted those three. It was fine. But the new aesthetic for the Stormcast Eternals, I think, is quite an improvement. And I think you could get some sweet, like, I don't know, dark fantasy vibes from those models. It could be really cool. Probably, what else? There's a lot of nice models in Age of Sigmar, man. I just look at that whole gaming system like, oh, look how fun that would be to paint. Alright, I think the wood elf tree people with bug parts are cool. Like bug wings. Those look awesome to paint. All the lizard men look wicked. right here is where we would want the highlight on this bit of cloth. Yeah, right in the middle. I guess the next steps from here would be to look at the Jane Czar model and determine what areas should be adapted, right? Like, will this model benefit from picking out the bottom of the boots, like from the knees down, in black? Like the classic model. I'm not exactly sure if I want to commit to that. Well, I generally want to carry that official, so to speak, Phoenix Lord color scheme through to any of my models, whether they're counts as Phoenix Lords or the real GW ones. I do want to, like, respect the lore, so to speak, of these named characters, but even my sensibilities on that has its limits, right? Like, if the aesthetics are just worse for it, is it worth bending the knee to the lore, so to speak? Maybe just paint it so it looks best, or so that you're maximally happy with it. I wonder how far I can push these greens here. It's like not a lot of space, but I think even still there's some interesting little subtle geometry here that we can use. Jerry Sanchez says, good luck on the painting. Got to run. Catch you next stream. You have a good evening too, Jerry. I appreciate the company. And look, actually, it's about time I wrap up anyways. We're approaching the 2-hour mark, so that seems like a good time to wrap up the hobby stream. Real quick, before I do the outro, most probably I'm not streaming tomorrow, just because of... I got plans. But Wednesday is most probably a sure thing. And look, we got some interesting progress here. Look, I think having the hair and the green elements in place really help make it look like I've progressed. Or else we'd have a beige model start and finish, which would not be ideal. Alrighty, well then, hobby enjoyers, it's time we wrap up. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and shared in the hobby camaraderie, and to everyone who liked, and any new subscribers. All of that kind of YouTube engagement is very much appreciated. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next